I think that there was a lot of shock at the Department of Homeland Security statistics that were dropped last week on illegal immigration, the number of convicted felons, the number of convicted rapists, the number of convicted murderers that are in the United States right now because our borders are. Kamala Harris has invited all of those folks to come across the border over the course of the last 4 years. And I think people are watching what's happening right now between Iran and Israel and are very, very nervous about where we stand on the world stage. Is America truly strong enough to protect our interests and our allies' interests at home and abroad?
All right, guys, welcome to the show. We've made it through the work week. I'm excited, but this is also like this time when we have a lot of politics, and every day there's something new that comes out, new polling, new data. So as much as I enjoy a good weekend, I also feel like, gosh, I got so much to save up for Monday. So we got a lot to break down for next week. I got a big announcement to share with you in just a second. As I mentioned, RNC Chairman Michael Whatley's here. We're going to talk about the ground game. We're going to talk about early vote, registration, all the stuff that is so critical down this stretch. So just trust me, you're not going to want to miss this, because we're going over the polling, we're going over the ground game, we're going over early vote, where we stand in the battleground states in that, path to 270 that I always talk about. By the way, big, I talk about endorsements a lot. I don't put a ton of stock into them, but I think when they go the opposite way, it's kind of intriguing. You had the International Firefighters Association just come out yesterday, and they issued a non-endorsement. Another union, right? First we saw the Teamsters, now this. Firefighters, here's the interesting thing. Take a look at this graphic. Every time the firefighters have endorsed a Democrat, the Democrat wins, right? Look at this. Look at when they didn't. Interesting. This is problematic for Harris. You got the most union supportive president in Biden, and these big unions are saying, no way, Jose. We're not backing you. This is huge for Trump. This is big for Trump. I've run campaigns with union support before. In 1996, my boss, a Republican, had union support. It's unreal. It's a totally different world when you can pick up the phone and say, hey, we need 50 people at this corner to wave signs, to attend this rally, to do this. It's like a built-in cheering section. This is important. Kamala Harris is losing big union support. And these are the guys who knock on doors, put up signs, man phone banks. Not happening. Teamsters, now the firefighters. I'm just telling you, this is a big deal. Okay. I also want to talk to you about this. It's really interesting. We talked about the debate the other day with the panel yesterday. Axios, J.D. Vance made this claim about immigration driving up costs. And at the time it was like, what are they're debating economic studies. Like, let me just get this straight. This basic supply and demand. More people come in, it drives up the cost, right? It doesn't frankly even matter whether they're illegal immigrants or not. Doesn't matter, right? It's supply and demand. More people come into an area, it drives up costs for food and goods and services and rent. I don't know that you need a degree from Harvard to know that. I know that, and I got a D in economics. But Axios comes out with a thing, and they're trying to fact check J.D. Vance. And they're like, well, we don't have any evidence. There's no doubt, this is them. There's no doubt that a surge of people entering the U.S. in the last 2 years, including both those entering the country illegally and those with various forms of legal status, increased demand for housing. Well, no kidding. Again, this doesn't take a big economics degree to figure out, like a degree from Wharton here. But yes, there's reason to doubt that immigration flows are the primary drivers of housing unaffordability. Oh my God, the length to which these guys are willing to cover, it's a fact. Again, to their point, it doesn't really matter. On a basic economic principle, more people, more higher costs. Less people, less costs, supply and demand. So, I even got that. But these guys will go to unbelievable lengths to cover for these guys. It's crazy how this happens. All right, I got a lot to break into. I want to tell you, though, about if you're a coffee drinker, I want to tell you about this new coffee that I've come across. It's called Wire2Fish. Okay, here's why I think this is different and why I like this company. Everybody that I know loves drinking coffee, right, in the morning. They get up, they start pounding coffee. We've got a ton of varieties these days. You can get anything you want, flavored, etc. Wire2Fish is a company that practices what they preach. Let's put it this way, because I tell people all the time, I won't go to Starbucks. I just won't do it. I don't want to give money to a company that hates me and everything I stand for. I like going to companies that stand for stuff. And Wire2Fish cares about the earth. They give back 25% of their profits to faith-based programs and clean water initiatives. I like that. I like companies that support the values that I believe in. I want a clean earth. I want clean water. I want clean air. I mean, JD Vance said it great the other day. The left likes to make it sound like if you don't support all their crazy leftist environmental stuff, these guys support those. They support faith-based initiatives. But the cool part is it's amazing coffee, right? It's sourced in Guatemala and Mexico. They've got some of the finest beans in the world that they use on this. And so if you are interested and you go to Wire2Fish, you can join a great community of folks that are making a positive impact and giving back consistent with our values. So head over to wire2fishcoffee.com, and it's wired the number 2 coffee, wire2fishcoffee.com, wired number 2 to fish.com, and use code WeCare for 50% off your first order. I'm telling you, the beans are amazing. The taste is great. And the best part is it's consistent with our values. Wire2fishcoffee.com. Use code WeCare. All right. I got a big announcement that I mentioned. I want to tell you about this. Sunday, October 13th. It's Columbus Day weekend at 7 o'clock. Should have checked the Patriots game first. Why 7 o'clock though? We are going live. We're doing a live Road to 270 Battleground Edition. Here's the kicker though. We're going to bring in experts from every state to help break down that state. Scott Pressler, he will join us to talk about what's going on in Pennsylvania. We've got top political operatives in each of the states that are going to come in and help us talk about what's really going on the ground, what the numbers are, what the feeling is, what the early vote is, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Mark your calendars now, 7 o'clock to 8:30-ish, Sunday night, October 13th. We'll continue to talk about this. But I'm telling you, if you really want to know what's going on in these battleground states beyond the ridiculous headlines that you can see sometimes, this is going to be something you're going to want to see. So also hit that notification button now so you know about what's going down. This, frankly, is the reason this show is unique. Michael Whatley, the chairman of the RNC, is coming up. We're going to have a conversation that you won't see anywhere else. I'm not bragging. It's just a fact. When he goes on TV, a lot of times it's 5-6 minutes. He's going to answer the news of the day. We're about to talk to him about voter registration, the get out the vote effort, early vote, absentee vote, right? Election integrity. What are they doing to protect the vote? Those are things that you can't do in 5 minutes. We're going to have a very long conversation with Michael Whatley, the chairman of the RNC, coming right up. And again, I'm sorry, no other place is going to have that discussion. Not only the time constraint, but they just don't know enough about politics to have it, to what the follow-up questions are. So sit back and relax, because that's about to happen. I will tell you, I want to show you one thing that popped on Instagram that I thought was interesting the other day. I keep saying, and it's because of the guests that we've had, Tina Anderson of Just Thrive. I'll talk about her in just a second. Alex Clark, the guest that we've had. I believe that the big sleeper issue right now, this cycle, is big food. I find out more and more about the stuff that we're seeing. Sunscreen. I asked my dermatologist about this the other day because, look at me. I'm a dermatologist's dream. I go in, they freeze stuff off every time. Fair-skinned Irish kid, right? And I find out that we're putting stuff I think, okay, I'm being good. I put sunscreen on. Then I'm told, read the side of the label. You got to be kidding me, this stuff. It's just as bad as being in the sun. You read some of the stuff that's in our food, the red dyes, all this other stuff, RFK, Tulsi, all making a big deal out of it. Why is government allowing this to happen? I thought we're supposed to be protected by them. I'm telling you, if this issue gets picked up, and I know Bobby and Tulsi and Alex Clark and others are talking about it, kudos to them for what they're saying, right? And but I am a convert to this. I believe that this issue is huge. And look at this thing from CNN. Suddenly it's mainstream now. All those cookware things that we've been working on. Bad stuff going into your food. Forever plastics, PFAS. Now it's mainstream. First, everyone was nuts for bringing it up, conspiratorial. And now it's like, oh, guess what? You guys were right. We're not going to say that, but we're just going to put it out there that these things are bad. But I'm telling you guys, I'm going to continue to hammer on this issue because politically it's a winner of an issue. All right. I want to talk to Michael Whatley about a few things. The trends in the polling. We talked about this in the Road to 270 Wednesday. As I mentioned you, every Wednesday we'll be doing the Road to 270, and then that special live that we talked about, that's going to happen as well. But I want to talk to him about that. So keep that in mind, because what I'm seeing in these trends, it's not just one poll, right? That's where people get this wrong. One poll. Look at the trend. Where is it going? Look at the trend in the specific poll. They're all heading in Donald Trump's direction. I'm telling you right now, I firmly believe Donald Trump is going to win on election night with 305 electoral votes. Mark this tape right here, 305 electoral votes. I need to do the math again. I shouldn't say things like that without looking at the map. But that's where I think he ends up right now. I'll update this as we go along, but I think this is where this thing goes. It's not over yet, but you look at these, and I'm going to talk to Chairman Whatley about this in a second. It's not just the trends in the polling, the registration. Scott Pressler, he's going to be joining on this in this live that we do. The work that he's doing is paying off. Lucerne County, he's flipped, Democrat, now Republican. Fayette County, Democrat, flipped to Republican. The trends throughout Pennsylvania in the right direction. The trend, Arizona, registration, right direction. All of these things happening in the right direction. And I'm telling you, and by the way, there's a big, you wouldn't believe, the folks in Pennsylvania got caught today. Caught on the registration front. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just pay attention. I'm going to bring this up with Whatley because guess what? The Republican Party and Scott Pressler caught the state of Pennsylvania trying to interfere. Let's be honest with you. They got caught. They got caught, they got flagged, and it got changed. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, just stay tuned because I'm going to ask Chairman Whatley about this. Obviously, a big issue right now is what's going down in North Carolina and this disaster. And again, I hate to be crass. I hope everybody's getting what they need. But speaking of that, but there's a race in 30 days. I got to talk about the political implications. I'm going to bring that up with Chairman Whatley because he's from North Carolina. But I want to talk to you. I want to show you what Donald Trump had to say about the FEMA response, because there's the political consequences of the response, and Kamala Harris is going to have to deal with that. And then there's the voting, the operational piece of this. Can people actually vote? And who does that affect in Western North Carolina, parts of Georgia, et cetera? But I want to play you Donald Trump's response to the FEMA activity down here.
If you want to see how sick and distorted Kamala Harris's priorities are, just consider FEMA. FEMA, you know what that is, right? The Federal Emergency Management Agency. And you read about now all the time because there's nobody that's handled a hurricane or storm worse than what they're doing right now. Kamala spent all her FEMA money, billions of dollars, on housing for illegal migrants, many of whom should not be in our country.
All right, here's the thing about that, just so we're clear. Right or wrong, perception matters. This is politics. And if people are looking and saying, God, you can give a ton of money to Ukraine, you can do all this, and this is how we get treated as U.S. citizens, I'm sorry, that's a big problem. And you can't sit around like Biden and Harris and be begging for money for Ukraine, and then when our own people are in need, suddenly be like, hey, here you go. Here's $750. I'm sorry your house got washed away. We got to start taking care of our own. And it's just, the optics don't look good, folks. And this is going to, and look, I know there's some people that are like, how dare you? I get it, but we have an election coming up. And this is where I need to be able to explain stuff. Western North Carolina, parts of Georgia, you have 2 of the 7 battleground states in particular that are affected. And I need you to see that. All right, but before I bring in Michael Whatley, the chair of the Republican Party and the former chair of the North Carolina Party, that's important to note. I want to tell you, I mentioned Tina Anderson, the folks from Just Thrive. She has been such a light shining on eating well, the issues of this. She introduced me to their products. This is the probiotic. This is their Just Calm. It's amazing what matters when you talk about eating healthy, taking probiotics. I took probiotic for years. I thought I was being healthy. I meet Tina Anderson and the folks at Just Thrive, and I find out, hey, guess what? Most probiotics don't actually get to where they're going. So 70 to 80% of us deal with gut issues. What do gut issues affect? Not just our stomach and indigestion and bloating and all that. They actually affect our skin, our health, our mood, our sleep. So if you're going to take a probiotic, you need one that works. And the probiotics from Just Thrive actually get to where they're going, where they're supposed to go. They go through your stomach, into your intestine. Most probiotics don't do that. So you're taking something that doesn't work. Not so with Just Thrive. And if you're interested for a limited time, you can go to Just Thrive, get their probiotic or the Just Calm. I take both. I've told you before, if you watch I Love the Gummy, I asked Tina, by the way, the other day, I had a conversation. I said, hey, if I taken the gummy, am I getting the 100%? Good. Okay, you can save 20% off your first-time order if you go to justthrivehealth.com and use promo code SPICER. Justthrivehealth.com, promo code SPICER. All right, without further ado, the chairman of the Republican National Committee, Michael Whatley. Chairman, good to see you. Thanks for coming back.
It is good to be on with you, Sean.
Yeah, I bet you it is, because I want to just segue into this, and this is something that I do this road to 270 on the show. I want to gut check it on you, but here's an interesting thing. A guy put out the other, just, in the last 24 hours, it says below are the RCP polling trends for Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin over the last week. There is a precise movement towards Trump from everyone not named Bloomberg or Morning Consult, right? This trend over and over again in all of the polling, and this is something that I've been telling the audience, looks like, not necessarily one poll, but when you look at the overall trends, especially that blue wall, looks like there's some cracks in it.
Yeah, look, we look at two different things. The first is these averages like you're talking about. I want to know what all the polls are saying in aggregate, and I like what I'm seeing. The second thing that we want to do is we want to look at any particular poll and look at where it was a month ago, 3 months ago, 6 months ago, or 2020, 2016. And I really like what we're seeing in all of the battleground states when you take a look at the historical nature of this. When you think about where were we on September 20th of this year versus September 20 of 16 versus September 20 of 2020, and we're in better shape across the board. So I like what we're seeing.
Yeah, it's interesting. All right, I'm going to give you my ranking. Tell me what you think of this. So I think Arizona is the most likely state of the 7 battlegrounds to go for Trump, then Georgia, then North Carolina. Nevada, to me, is sort of my middle ground. And then I go back and forth, but I think it's something like Wisconsin or Michigan, and then the other one, and then Pennsylvania. What do you think of that list?
I like that list a lot. I think Pennsylvania feels pretty good right now.
Right.
We're seeing a lot of trends. We're seeing a lot of numbers. I think that, like you say, Arizona is probably outside the margin right now. I think that we're showing leads in the other states. With North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Nevada that are inside margins, and then basically virtual ties up in Wisconsin and Michigan and Minnesota and Wisconsin. So I like where we're at right now. Again, I think that we've got a lot of paths to 270. Donald Trump is playing offense, and Kamala Harris is absolutely playing defense. When you look at their ad buys, they're buying ads in a lot of states that they carried in 2020, and I think we're playing offense in a lot of states, even Virginia. We're continuing to show sparks of life out there in a pretty good way, and Glenn Youngkin showed us the way in 2021, and he's been a fantastic leader for us in that state right now.
Yeah, I'm sitting here in Virginia. I was the last elector for Virginia, as I like to tell the audience, 2004. What outside the 7 battleground states do you think might be a surprise on election night?
Well, I would say start with Virginia, right? And then I think, we'll see what happens in Minnesota. We'll see what happens in New Hampshire, we're continuing to see a lot of support for the president, even in places like, New Jersey and New York. That rally that we had in New York was a lot of fun. We're going to be going back to New York at some time, would be my guess. 107,000 people showing up in New Jersey. But, what you can say is look at where the president has been traveling. The president has been traveling. So can
I expect him back? What do you got? So look, you win states where you put resources in terms of swing states. Are you guys willing to commit, or what have you committed to a state like Virginia?
I'm not going to talk about the individual specifics on it, but the fact is that the president did a rally there. We've got J.D. Vance has been doing events there. I'm going to be down there. So there's interest there. The focus is going to remain the 7 states that decided 2016, that decided 2020, and are going to decide 2024.
All right. So let me just, before we get into registration and some of the wonky stuff, when you look at issues that you think matter to voters who are making that last minute decision, right? We hear about all these abortion, the gender gap, the black. What are the issues that you think are pushing people over the top that are keeping them from that decision, right? I mean, in my opinion, and probably in your opinion, this is an easy case. What is it, though, that the undecided, low propensity voter cares about?
They care about jobs. They care about the economy. They care about prices, grocery prices, gasoline prices, housing prices. I think that there was a lot of shock at the Department of Homeland Security statistics that were dropped last week on illegal immigration, the number of convicted felons, the number of convicted rapists, the number of convicted murderers that are in the United States right now because our border czar, Kamala Harris, has invited all of those folks to come across the border over the course of the last 4 years. And I think people are watching what's happening right now between Iran and Israel and are very, very nervous about where we stand on the world stage. Is America truly strong enough to protect our interests and our allies' interests at home and abroad? So those are really the three buckets that we're kind of watching right now. Mm-hmm. And we're seeing solid leads for Donald Trump on the issue polls for every single one of them.
So we talk a lot about low propensity voters, people who have just registered, people who have voted in 1 of 4 elections, maybe 2 of 4 elections. Take us inside your operation. How do you get those people? The media tells us that they are low information people. They're not watching this show. They're not watching the evening newscast. How do you guys reach those folks and make the case about Donald Trump's record and record of results versus the Biden-Harris record?
Well, two different things. First off, there's very traditional outreach methods. We're sending direct mail, we're sending texts, we're sending emails, we're making phone calls, we're knocking on doors. And these are things that campaigns have done really over the last several decades. The other thing that we're doing is that we're going out to our base voters, our primary voters, high propensity voters, that are signing up to be part of our Trump Force 47 campaign. And we're asking them, here's a list of people in your community that we haven't had a chance to talk to. Will you go talk to them? What we're seeing is a dramatically higher percentage of the conversations that we're targeting we're getting than we have in the past, because we've been very, very focused on who we're going to talk to and what those conversations are going to look like.
Somebody that I know who went to vote early shared with me an anecdote from the other side and said when they voted, they got geo-targeted from the other side. And it said, "Dear Bob, thanks for voting, but we noticed that, your wife and daughter haven't voted yet. Can you make a plan for them?" What kind of data and technology is being utilized on our side?
Well, I think we're obviously tracking everybody that goes to vote. We're tracking the people that we have identified as low propensity voters and even our high propensity voters. And we're going to them and we're having a conversation early on the front end. We're saying, look, it is great if you want to vote early. It is great if you want to vote by mail. It's great if you want to vote on election day. Just make a plan, right? Let us know what your plan is. We'll follow up with you to make sure that you execute on that plan and get that vote out. Then we want you to identify 10 people in your community. Maybe they're at your church, they're at your workplace, they're home, they're family members, they're friends. When you can go identify those 10 additional people and get them to commit to vote, that is going to cut through the clutter. Right now, we're starting to get into the zone of the last, month of this election cycle, where you have a barrage of texts, a barrage of emails. There's TV ads all day, every day on every single station, and it becomes noise. The one thing that cuts through all of that clutter is a 5-minute conversation with somebody that you trust, and that's the backbone of our grassroots effort.
Okay, let's talk. I want to break this down slowly. Let's go registration, then early vote, and then get out the vote, right? Early absentee and all that. So let's start by registration. The numbers to me don't lie. And this is beautiful. In Arizona and then in Pennsylvania and other states, you're seeing this registration gap. You look at, let's take Arizona first. I feel very good when I look at the numbers. What do you see in Arizona when it comes to registration? Because to me, it seems like those counties outside of Maricopa are really growing in your favor and in Donald Trump's favor.
Yeah, and we continue to like what we see in Maricopa as well. I think that Arizona is really truly starting to move outside the margin in terms of the polling, and the fact that voter registration numbers are as positive as they are looks really good to us. You mentioned Pennsylvania. We have basically cut the margin, the Democrat lead in voter registration, in half. And we're continuing to make gains every single day. In North Carolina, we've cut it by 2/3. In Florida, we now have 1 million more registered Republicans than registered Democrats. So on a whole, in these battleground states, we really are liking what we see in terms of people leaving the Democratic Party, people who are coming to the Republican Party. And across the board, we're seeing more independents or unaffiliateds that are registering, which gives us a great opportunity to go talk to those people about the issues they care about, because Republicans are listening and putting solutions on the table.
So in Pennsylvania in particular, you're right, all across the board, in county after county after county, 63 of 67 counties shifted Republican. That's huge, right? You look at Fayette County, Luzerne County, they've shifted from Democrat to Republican. Just operationally, what has changed with how you guys do business? It's very expensive to register people to vote, right? Is this you guys working with outside groups? Is it outside groups? What's to account for this shift?
Well, I think there is an effort that we are putting on the ground. I think there's an effort that outside groups are putting on the ground. And you cannot discount the fact that voters tend to register based on their emotions at the time. Kamala Harris and the inflation that she has triggered, the immigration invasion that she has triggered, has forced a lot of people to reassess whether they want to be Democrats or not. The number of people that I talk to who say, you know what, I used to be a Democrat, I've always been a Democrat, but this Democratic Party is absolutely crazy, I can't support this anymore, is a very real number that we're seeing. And so, we're seeing Democrat to unaffiliated voter shifts in a big way. We're seeing Democrat to Republican. We're seeing some unaffiliated or independent to Republican. But by far the biggest thing that we're seeing is people who are leaving the Democratic Party because they frankly can't afford to make it to the end of the month the way that they were able to under Donald Trump. And they're not going to support this candidate and this ticket.
So let's talk about early vote absentee ballot, right? This is key. You guys, the RNC has made a big effort. Bank your vote. Glenn Youngkin made a big deal out of it in Virginia. Where does that stand? When I talked to James Blair, the Trump political director, a couple days ago, he was very encouraged by early signs, especially in Virginia, that Republican early vote was up about 200%. Where it was last cycle. Obviously, the Dems up 100%, but we're doing better. Where are you seeing signs of promise in the early vote and the absentee vote in the 7 battleground states?
In all 7. I think
really?
Right now, look, right now what we're seeing, and let's take Pennsylvania and North Carolina, because those are the ones where absentee ballots are already going out. We have seen a dramatic shortfall for the Democrats of what they were able to produce in 2020. I think that even shortfalls versus what they did in 2022, so that the gap between Republicans and Democrats on those absentee ballot requests is dramatically lower in both of those states. When you look at Virginia, as you just mentioned, where they don't have the absentees, but they do have the early vote, we really like the numbers that we're seeing there. So I think that that's going to be a trend we're going to continue to see. And look, Republicans have always won Election Day. We are going to win Election Day. We feel very comfortable about that. It's really about how behind are we when we're coming out of the early and absentee phase.
Right. I mean, that's where I think the media gets this wrong. We won't win the early vote, right? But we're doing better, and we swamp them in Election Day. So if we can close that gap in the early and the absentee vote and then continue to outperform on Election Day, we win. I mean, that's the formula, right?
Yeah, and what we have a set up and are running at this point in time is essentially a nationwide early vote program. Over half of the votes in the entire country are going to be cast before Election Day. You cannot wait until the week before the election to start communicating with people, to start sending mail, to start running TV ads. You've got to move those communications earlier and earlier and earlier in order to make sure that on the front end, you have informed voters that are going to be casting their votes this way. And so we feel very good about where we are in terms of our grassroots programs, in terms of our digital communications, the TV ads, and all of the different voter contacts that we've had. And Donald Trump has been living in these 7 battleground states with the rallies, with his messaging events, and with his direct communication that is targeting all of the different voters across the country.
So this is the first cycle when the campaign and the RNC can kind of coordinate with these outside groups. You mentioned Election Day being huge, right? This get out the vote, getting people to make sure that they cast that ballot is huge. Take us back. What is the RNC plan? What does it look like when it comes to that get out the vote operation on Election Day? A, what does it look like? And then B, how can people get involved if they want to be part of it?
Yeah, TrumpForce47.com. We'll put that right up front. That's the website where people can go and they can sign up. What we're going to do is we're going to ask you to register, go through a quick training video, and then we're going to present you with a list of 25 people from your community, and we're going to ask you to go get 10 of them to commit to vote for Donald Trump and the Republicans up and down the ticket. If they do that, we're going to ask them for 25. Then we're going to do 50. Then we're going to do 100. We've got 8,000 people already across the country, thousands more that are in the process of becoming those Trump Force captains, where they've already gone out and got those 100 commitments. But if we can get every one of the people that enter this program to go get 10 people, that becomes a major, major movement. We're excited about what we're seeing on the ground. And then as we go into this last month, it's going to be a more traditional get out the vote campaign, where we are again targeting the low propensity voters. We're targeting the people that are moving away from the Democratic Party. You know, we're seeing historic shifts right now. Blacks, Hispanics, Asian Americans, and Jews are leaving the Democratic Party because of the policies that Kamala Harris is put on the table and doubled down on. So we have plenty of targets of opportunity at this point to go out with a traditional get out the vote campaign. And you're seeing ads on TV in the 7 battleground states. You're seeing the digital ads. You're getting the phone calls. It is all about voter contact, but more importantly than just voter contact, it's voter conversations. We want to have those 5-minute conversations with them.
Yeah, by the way, I noticed, I saw one of the ads, as you mentioned, if you go to Trump Force 47, if you get these different metrics hit, right, you get the 10 people, you guys give, I mean, I know the campaigner, whoever's running it, you get a hat or something like that. I think it's a really nice incentive for folks who want to be part of the team.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the end of the day, for those folks that are going to go out and get 100 commitments, then, you know, we're going to have a very big party when we win this thing for all of our Trump Force captains. So there's a lot of inclusion, right? There's a lot of people who are paying attention to it, and it really is good. But the key is, how are we going about these conversations? You know, we spent a very significant amount of time cleaning up the data that we have at the RNC plus the Trump campaign. We've merged our operations together so that we're in the field with one program, not two. We're in the field with one set of messaging, not two. You know, the fundraising, the digital, the data, the political operations are all unified, which, you know, the first time really since George Bush did it back in 2000 and 2004 so effectively.
When I had James Blair, the Trump campaign political director, on the show the other day, I said to him, hey, look, you can coordinate with these outside groups like Turning Point Action, America First Works, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I asked him what degree of confidence he has in these outside groups doing their job. And I thought he gave me a brutally honest answer, Chairman. He said, I have more confidence in some than others, and we can hold them accountable. Do you share that view?
What I would say is that we are building our program to run our operations, and then when we have these other groups come in to help coordinate, it is nice because it's very complementary. We're going to have the operation set up the way that we need to run it, even if we're all alone. It is very helpful to have these other groups sitting in the boat at the same direction and rowing at more or less the same time. And we certainly are seeing groups that are hitting their marks all across the country and reporting back into us and letting us know kind of what they're doing. The coordination effect that we have right now, which we're allowed to do because of this new order from the Federal Election Commission, is great because it does give us a legitimate window into the operations that other groups are playing with it. They have always been able to coordinate among themselves so that there's always been kind of just two sets of folks that are going to be in the field. So our awareness right now is much better, and I like the coordination.
So the number one issue I get when I talk to people about the road to 270, and here are the paths that Donald Trump can win by, here are the trends that I see in the polls. Bar none, everybody says, what do you think of the ground game? So I want to say I just talked to the chairman of the RNC, and the answer he gave me is,
we have a great ground game. It is absolutely being deployed right now, and we feel very comfortable that we're going to get out the vote. You know, when I took over the RNC along with Laura back in March, we stripped everything here down to two functions: get out the vote and protect the ballot. We feel very good about where we are in the ground game right now. I think we're going to have, and we're already seeing it, right? Look at what we're seeing right now with the absentee process in North Carolina, Pennsylvania. Look at the early voting we're seeing in Virginia. Look at what we saw using this type of a model during the primaries, where Donald Trump was getting record numbers in every single primary. So we feel good about where we are on the ground. We're going to get out that vote, and we're also going to turn around and protect the ballot.
All right, you heard it from the chairman of the RNC. You talk about protecting the ballot. Donald Trump's returning to Butler, Pennsylvania, the site of that assassination attempt that the hand of God literally came down and saved him from. But here was an interesting thing that I thought was fascinating. Lo and behold, the state of Pennsylvania puts out a notice and says, hey, we're going to be doing voter registration. It says the website, voter registration application, will be undergoing scheduled maintenance and unavailable on October 5th from 10 p.m. until October 4th at 4 a.m. Gosh, that just happens to be the day that Donald Trump is going to be in Pennsylvania. Well, Scott Pressler, who's doing amazing work in Pennsylvania, flags this. Laura Trump, you just mentioned her. They got your team of lawyers on board. And wow, holy smokes, they moved the scheduled maintenance. But how concerned are you about this kind of debauchery and trickery and dirty tricks, let's be honest, that they're doing on the Dem side to sort of interfere with the election?
Well, what I will say is we have built the first...
And by the way, real quick, kudos to you and your team, because that says a lot. This is the difference. This is where, I'll sing your praises. This is where your team, you and Laura and the team, are doing things that people can see to get the job done. I'll just say that. You guys deserve a lot of credit for getting in there, getting it done, and getting results. So kudos to you and your team, and I hope that after the election, you let those lawyers go to that party that you were talking about.
Absolutely. Look, and I appreciate it. Look, what we have done is set up the first ever national election integrity program at the RNC. We have built it out. We've got 115 staff that are working full time all day, every day on election integrity. We have people that are deployed out into all of the battleground states. We've got people on the ground in those congressional districts in California, New York, as well as our Senate battleground states like Florida, Texas, Ohio, and Montana. But in the big seven battleground states, we have full tilt teams that are on the ground out there. We have held thousands of events where we've been training sessions for the volunteers. Very happy to announce this week we've doubled our initial goal of 100,000 volunteers. We have over 200,000 people who have registered. They're going through training, and we are putting them in the field to serve as ballot workers, poll workers, poll observers on Election Day throughout early voting periods. My favorite analogy on election integrity, I'd rather have a police car parked in front of a storefront window than call them after a rocket's thrown through it. We are going to be in the room. The key elements for us, are, number one, you've got to have the right rules of the road in place before voting starts. That's why we filed 125 different lawsuits in 26 different states. That's why we've seen states like Georgia, North Carolina, and Wisconsin passing new laws, very good, solid election integrity laws that we've had to protect in courts, but they've done the heavy lifting from the legislative side. We have seen boards of elections that have worked with us, and we've had areas where they're not working with us, and we've had to go to court to try and make those changes. But we've worked very aggressively on the front end to get the right rules of the road in place. Things like only American citizens can vote. You have to have voter ID. You've got to make sure that states are cleaning up the voter rolls. And where we have mail-in balloting, we want basic protections in place. So we feel very good about where we are compared to 4 years ago on all of these fronts. The second part, you got to be in the room. And that's where these 200,000 volunteers that we've been able to put together, we set up the Protect the Vote tour. So Laura Trump, myself, Matt Whitaker, Pam Bondi have traveled around the country, 25 events in battleground states to make sure that we are recruiting those volunteers and getting them trained so that we can deploy them and be in the room with it. Look, there's always going to be efforts on the other side of the aisle. We know that. But I feel like if we are in the room and we are prepared, we're going to do a much better job of inoculating ourselves so that we can have a fair, accurate, secure, and transparent election.
To the extent I know, having been at the RNC, I get a lot of calls after the election about stuff that they happen. If somebody is voting and they see something, what should they do? How should they handle that concern that they have, that they see somebody voting improperly, they see somebody who is maybe not a citizen or something like that? What should they do to handle it properly?
We will have volunteers who are going to be there as poll workers, poll observers, that they can immediately flag that with. If all else fails, they should pick up the phone and call their county chair, the county Republican Party chair, because we're going to have them looped in with us, and we will make sure that we flag that and we address it immediately.
Okay. Chairman, you're from North Carolina. First and foremost, our thoughts and prayers go out to the people of North Carolina and Georgia that have been affected by Hurricane Helene. I hope everyone in your family and your neighbors are all safe.
Yeah, thankfully so.
Okay. First, I want to just ask you this. Is the federal government doing what they need to get the support that they need to the people there?
You know, what I will say is this, we're going to have plenty of opportunities to take political shots in the future. And I think, frankly, unfortunately, they're going to be warranted. What we're seeing right now in a number of states is in Tennessee, in South Carolina, in Georgia, in North Carolina, in Virginia. There's an unbelievable amount of damage that has been wrought by this storm. The fact that my family, I'm grateful that we're all okay, but there are many, many thousands of families that are not going to be okay in terms of property damage, in terms of loss, in terms of lost lives. And we still do not have an accurate count even of who's missing, let alone what that death toll is going to be like, the injuries that are going to be served. So, our hearts and prayers are with everybody throughout the entire region, not just North Carolina and Georgia, but also including those other states. Look, right now, what we're seeing is that there's a lot of private sector help. The churches that are standing up, the Red Cross that's standing up, Samaritan's Purse is doing an absolutely remarkable job. But we're continuing to hear concerns. Where is FEMA? Where are the state governments? What is happening there? And so we're gonna see as electricity gets turned on. Elon Musk fortunately talked with President Trump. Got units that are going into North Carolina and Georgia and other states right now, so that they can get online and we can actually get adjustments that are going to be made. I do say that with not really wanting to take too many political shots, when you have the Secretary of Homeland Security today say we spent all our money housing illegal immigrants and we are out of money to be able to help with hurricanes, that is a very troubling statement.
Before I let you go, I have to be. I apologize if this comes across politically crass, but we're in the business. We're 30 days out from an election. Tell me what the demographic makeup of Western North Carolina is. Is it the Asheville area? Is this a Donald Trump area? Is this an area that votes traditionally Democratic? Like what normally is the vote look like in that western part that's been most effective?
It's always been Republican. Everything west of Charlotte is heavily Republican. Obviously, the city of Asheville is a blue dot in a red field. And it is a very liberal city. But the rest of that congressional district, the 11th district, is very, very Republican. When you look at Northwest Georgia, you look at rural Georgia, obviously those are Republican areas.
Should we be worried then? Should we be worried about, I mean, again, I apologize for being crass, but it's a swing state. You've got 16 electoral votes. Should we be worried about those votes being cast, considering that makeup?
Well, we certainly want to make sure that we have the polling locations are going to be up and running. We want to make sure that people are aware of those voting locations. If we need to set up alternatives, we will figure out a way to set up alternatives and get people out there. I have already spoken with the Speaker of the North Carolina House. They are going to be having a special session where they're going to take a look at the needs for the region, for the state. I am aware that county boards of elections are already meeting and having conversations with the state boards of elections. So there is going to be a full tilt effort, and we're going to need one to make sure that everybody in the western part of these states has the opportunity to go out and vote.
Okay. Well, Chairman, again, my thoughts and prayers are with the people in North Carolina, Georgia, and all those other affected areas. And I mean, unfortunately, we have to talk about the political consequences. So I hate to make it that, but this is where we are politically speaking, and it is a battleground state as well as Georgia. So I thank you for sharing your insights with us. I appreciate you being with us as we enter these final days, and hopefully we get to have you come back and give us an update. But congrats on all the great work, because I think the trends are headed in the right way. The work is in the right way, and you guys have a focus of unity, as you mentioned, that I think is very admirable from people who've had concerns out of the RNC. Your leadership is very, very well noted at this critical time.
Well, I appreciate that. And I would just say to every one of your listeners, we feel like we're absolutely in a fantastic position to be able to win this race. We think that it's not just a matter of messengers, even though we have dramatically better messengers. It is a matter of the message. When you look at the debates that we have seen, neither Kamala Harris nor Tim Walz have been able to close the deal. Neither one of them have been able to sell the package of issues that they're trying to campaign on to the American people, which is why we're leading on every issue poll. We are leading in every battleground state, and we're expecting that we're going to have a really great night on November 5th.
Awesome. Thank you, Chairman.
Thanks, Sean.
All right, guys, love that conversation. Before I go, I want to add a bit of levity. There's a funny meme that our friend Tim Murtaugh threw out on X. Let's play it.
The final part of the debate is called the stare down. Each candidate looks in the eyes of the other candidate, and whoever turns away is the chicken. You know the rules. Let's begin. May the best man win. Wow. Why did you give up so easily, Governor? Are you admitting that you are, in fact, a chicken?
I come from a middle-class home.
All right, thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. We'll see you back here on Monday. And again, live show coming your way October 13th. That's Sunday night. We're going to have so much in the last 30 days. Make sure you're hitting that notification button. We'll see you back here on Monday. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.